morning, Elena. It is Monday, January 20th at 5:08 p.m. And very recently, I went to see Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. And I had some problems with the first movie, but I was optimistic about this one. And as I began to watch it, I began to have the same, just not enjoying it really. And I was sitting there trying to figure out why. First of all, this is a side note, but I was the only person in the entire theater. I think I mentioned that to you, but that was a weird experience. I kind of would just talk to the screen and just clap when someone I liked came on, whatever. I felt like it was cool. But yes, as I was watching it, there were parts where I was just really frustrated. And it took me a while, probably halfway through the movie, so 6 hours. But I think I figured out why. It's because I wasn't watching The Hobbit. Now let me explain. The point of The Hobbit for me is really in the name. It's called The Hobbit. I felt like I was watching not The Hobbit, because it didn't feel like it was The Hobbit in the way that the book was. The point of the book The Hobbit, in my opinion, was to take a big, crazy, epic fantasy adventure through the eyes of this simple little homebody hobbit guy. And that's the thing that sets it apart from other fantasy novels, because he sees it from such an interesting and simplistic perspective. He has no idea that the scope of what he's doing most of the time, and just kind of treats it the same way he would treat any other problem he comes across. I decided that the movie I was watching was, in fact, The Lord of the Mountain. Because if you think about it, instead of being the entire book of The Hobbit, which was from Bilbo's perspective, beginning to end, we look at it from so many people's perspectives, and instead of circling around Bilbo, I felt like it was more of circling around the mountain, and who was going to be ruler of it, and the dynamics of that. Here's my other point, too. They added stuff. And my thought is, Tolkien isn't one to unnecessarily leave out things. When he doesn't put something in, that's a big deal. So the fact that he doesn't show us the politics, he doesn't show us things from Gandalf's perspective, he doesn't show us, the whole scene with, there's this scene with Gandalf and Thorin at the beginning that kind of sets up, that raises the stakes a lot. And that bothered me, because you know what? Tolkien left it out. He doesn't leave things out unless there's a reason. And I think the reason was we were meant to experience this adventure as Bilbo. And by adding in all the other political intrigues and subplots and the elves and all those things, we lose the Hobbit perspective. And the thing is, whenever Martin Freeman came on the screen and we got to see something that was very similar to the book, I thought it was really interesting. It really drew me in. When I was just thinking about it, they added one scene that I don't remember from the book, where it was right before Bilbo went in to see the dragon. We'll get to that later. But he was talking to the big white-haired hobbit. That wasn't in the book, but it was a really cool scene because we were seeing things from Bilbo's perspective. When I was watching, the most powerful moments, I think, were when we were seeing things purely from the perspective of a little, simple hobbit. And that was great. The dragon stuff, I don't know. I was so looking forward, I was so pumped to see Benedict Cumberbatch. And the thing is, I kept forgetting it was Benedict Cumberbatch, which I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm thinking about it. His voice sounded good, but I really had to strain to hear any Benedict Cumberbatch. It almost sounded too distant from any kind of human voice. I would have liked it if it had sounded a bit more like Benedict Cumberbatch. The dragon looked awesome and stuff. But that's not the kind of thing I really look for in a movie. Oh, another part that bothered me, that kind of ruined the whole Hobbit thing, was the fact that I feel like they tried to turn Bilbo into an action hero, and I think that's the point of Bilbo. That's why Gandalf didn't pick a soldier. That's why they went and got a little hobbit. Because he solves his problems not with his sword very often. he solves it, like, in the most ridiculous ways. And that's why I was so disappointed when, like, we went to the spiders, and in the book, he makes them rhyme, mocks them, agitates them, and manages to defeat them that way. And I was like, okay, how are they going to pull this off? How's this... And, well, I guess this is kind of spoilery, but he just ends up, like, stabbing them and killing them. I'm like, really? That's not interesting at all. It's just, like, killing things. And, like, the quirky, like, the whole point of, like, the barrels is that it's like, undignified. It's a weird, goofy escape. And yet they made into, like, this whole River Rapids action fight sequence. And I was like, stop! The point of Bilbo is he's, like, probably the best scene, probably in the whole series, is going to be the Gollum scene. Because they were so faithful to the book, because it's about him saving his life by playing riddle games. Like, it's silly. It shouldn't work in a high epic fantasy world, but it does. Because Bilbo somehow manages to work his way out of ridiculous problems by using something other than force and violence, because that's not his strong point. And that's the whole point. And so it really frustrated me every time they turned into a huge action sequence, which they did so much. I was just like, yeah, I'm like, okay, this looks really cool, it's really epic and stuff, but it's the 5th one. Anyway, do you know what I kind of want to do? After all 3 films are made, I kind of want to just edit out all the stuff that isn't from Bilbo's perspective, or in the book, or just mostly not from Bilbo's perspective, and make it one straight film, and see if it works. Because, I mean, we have 3 films. I feel like if you could just take out Bilbo's stuff, you'd have one decent-length movie. And it might be The Hobbit, who knows, instead of being the Lord of the Mountain trilogy. Anyway, that was my rant. I mean, I think I would have enjoyed The Lord of the Mountain if I wasn't so set on seeing The Hobbit. So, anyway. Bye.